Ladies and gentlemen, the year 2017 will be important from an EU-European perspective. On March 25th, there will be the 60th anniversary of the Treaty of Rome, so the creation of the European Union. On the other hand, it is clear that 2017 will continue with the Brexit process. So in June 2016, a majority of voters in the United Kingdom, 51.9%, were in favor of leaving the European Union. It was a rather surprising result, but I think it's a result which is not based on an orderly referendum, because the Cameron government did not give adequate, full information to voters. The strange thing is that on April 18th, the Treasury Department published a report on the long-term benefits of British EU membership. And the main message was that leaving the EU will bring a real income loss of about 10% of GDP. Now, everybody would normally expect that such information will be included in a government brochure on the referendum. Actually, the Cameron government did send out a brochure of 16 pages to households in England on April 11th to 13th, and after May 9th in the rest of the country. But this brochure did not mention a single important figure from the Treasury report. So I would say this is Treasury Gate, in the sense that there was a strange non-coordination and there was a kind of a suppression of very important information. So of course, internally, all the figures from the Treasury report were known in the Cameron government, but they did not explain to the voters that Brexit means you will lose 10% of your income in the long run. Compare this to the Scottish referendum result 2 years ago, so in 2014, then the government carefully explained that Scottish independence would mean that there is an income loss of £1,400 per capita for every Scottish citizen. Now, in this case, the loss in the case of Brexit would be even higher, but the relevant information was not included in the government referendum brochure. So this is very strange, and based on popularity functions, one can calculate, and I did so in a book forthcoming in English. The title will be An Accidental Brexit, that the correct result would have been 52.1% in favor of the European Union. So that would not have been a great victory for the Remain campaign, but of course we would have a totally opposite result, and I think there is very weak legitimacy of the referendum result in 2016. It is also remarkable that the anti-immigration rhetoric of Mr. Cameron was quite misleading. That rhetoric dates back to about 2013, when the government always was complaining we have too many immigrants, this is a big burden for the United Kingdom, but the facts are very different. EU immigration never was more than 0.2% of population growth per year. There are OECD studies that show that the employment of EU immigrants was relatively high, so the labor force participation rate was higher than the British average, and also there is a net benefit for the British budget. So why would then Mr. Cameron complain so much about immigration? I think he was just looking for a scapegoat to somehow hide the problems he himself was causing by strongly cutting government local transfers. So the government in London has cut by 3.5 percentage points of GDP within 5 years the transfers to local governments. And the effect, of course, was an under-provision of local public services, and then many people complained this is all because we have too many immigrants. What nonsense is this? So this was not an honest, rational immigration debate. And of course, it's also true that the Cameron government, including actually Mrs. May, who was Minister of the Interior and therefore responsible for immigration policy, that this has all fueled anti-immigration sentiments in the UK and elsewhere in Europe. This is not acceptable. This is not rational. This is ill-founded and totally misleading. Mr. Corbyn, the Labour Party leader, has explained in a speech in January 2017 that he is in favor of managed labour mobility, so he does not want to accept free movement of labour in EU 27 plus UK. This is very strange. We want all to have free movement of capital, so why would then workers not be allowed to move freely? So the EU single market has the principle of free trade, free capital flows, and free labour movement. Mr. Corbyn also said that he thinks it is a very good idea that in the future the UK government will have then the power again to subsidize ailing industries such as the steel industry or so. This is economic nonsense. In the European Union, we have a control, we have rules on subsidization. And the very idea, of course, is that you want to avoid that ailing industries are subsidized at the expense of taxpayers, that structural changes slow down, and in the consequence also economic growth and international competitiveness is impaired. So if the UK in the future would subsidize ailing industries, there would be, of course, a response by parallel subsidization of EU 27 countries. And that would lead to a subsidization race, which certainly is not in the interest of workers and taxpayers, neither in the UK nor in EU 27. So these are all good arguments to say no to Brexit, to reconsider the pros and cons of Brexit. And I would say we all need, in the UK and in Europe, we need a more honest debate, and certainly we want to have full information about the facts which are known in government ministries. So in London there has been a Treasury gate, and I think one should focus on the details, on the backgrounds, on the responsible people behind the misinformation.